Hiya guys, Spectre here. Welcome back to some more Total Warhammer 3. Well, this is your faction a sacker or an occupier? Simple as that, basically. You've got two types of factions, primarily. Beastmen are obviously a sacking faction. Now, it doesn't mean that sackers can't occupy and the occupiers can't sack. Bretonnians are probably the worst one to sack with, because they can get negative traits if they sack. So I'll run through them quickly, then I'll go into some more in-depth some campaigns I've set up to show you some things. So Beastmen sack, Demons of Chaos are an occupier, but they can sack reasonably well as well. Empire, occupier. High Elves, occupier. Lizardmen, occupier except Nikai. Nikai's he's weird, because you don't normally have somebody like that in a faction that does something different to all the others. He's a bit odd. Old Kingdoms are definitely a sacker, but they have a little thing, but I've got a campaign show with those. Tomb Kings, occupier. Vampire Counts, occupier. Bretonnians, occupier. Dark Elves can actually do a mix of both. They can both sack and occupy, but they do need a foundation of things for their slaves, so they're more of an occupier than they are a sacker. Grand Cathay, they're a occupier. Khorne, 100% sacker. Norsca, again, you'll always need somewhere to recruit your troops from. With every faction, you will, but they do get a lot from sacking, so they're definitely a sacker. Skaven, again, are a bit weird, because obviously you need to also manage your food, which you've got to put further away from the area you're going to conquer. So you want it in far away lands that you're not going to reach or not going to go to. So you don't like destroy your undercities. There's no point in like being there. So they can sack for more food, but then you can also occupy it, because you can occupy with Skaven and then use your food to level it up to a higher tier. Normally I reserve it for cities only and then just let the towns level as normal. But if you get an ample supply of food, you can do a bit of both. Tzeentch are weird, because Tzeentch are an occupier. They're not a sacker. They can sack, but they are more of an occupier. They can earn a shitload of money from occupying settlements. You've just got to build them in certain ways, which I will show you on one of our like mono-god campaigns we've got set up. Warriors of Chaos, they are now more of an occupier than they were when they were in Warhammer 2, where they were basically pure sacker, because you've got the Dark Fortress that can generate enough money to like fund an entire army, but they can also sack settlements on the go and then make these little crappy outposts. It's just you need your Dark Fortresses are key for recruiting your troops and stuff like that. And obviously if you're going to attack any city, if it's high level, say tier 4, tier 5, it might not be worth sacking. Even though it'd be worth a lot of money, unless you are like drastically low on funds and you need the money, then obviously sack it. But if you've got ample money, it might be worth trying to just occupy it normally and take it at the tier it's at, rather than downgrading it. Because if you sack it, it might go down by one tier, and then if you occupy it, it might go down by another tier. So you might send a tier 5 to a tier 3. So you need to be careful with it. Chaos Dwarves, easy occupier. Same with Dwarves. Greenskins, sackers. 100% sackers. Kislev, occupier. Nurgle, surprisingly, are a sacker. In a big way. But I'll show you, because Nurgle, again, Nurgle are unique even among the mono-gods, because they work differently to any other faction in the game. Weirdly so. I like Nurgle. I think they could probably be a bit more ironed out. But they're strange, because they don't really even get like garrison buildings, essentially. They're very strange. But that's why they're more of a sacker. Because any armies generally that don't have great garrisons are more of a sacker. But there's ways to find out. Slaanesh can actually do both. The occupying part is a bit harder, because to make a load of money with Slaanesh, you've got to have a low control in your provinces, which is kind of hard to kind of manage. Otherwise, you can sack as well, just like all the mono-god factions can. Vampire Coast can 100% sack, because they can have their ships on your main legendary lord, and then you can recruit for like Immortal lords from your tech tree, and they also have their own ship. And the ship can basically act as like a mobile city, essentially. So it's kind of like a Black Ark, but Vampire Coast. They can 100% sack. Wood Elves are weird in that they are both. Because they occupy their trees, but they can sack pretty much everything else. The only things they need to occupy the big trees, because they're the only ones that are worth building in. All the small towns and cities outside, you can't build a strong garrison in. So you occupy what you can, what you can't, you can sack. Now if we go into the campaigns in a bit more detail, I'll show you what I've got set up. So what we'll do is we'll jump in first into Scarbrand. And I'm going to show you early game sackers, and I'm going to show you a late game sacking campaign as well. So you've got an idea on both, and how you can determine what your faction's better at from certain ways. Because some factions will have it and other factions won't. And then some may have a mix on their blue tree for the lords, which we'll get into as well. Also, if you're liking the video, please drop a like, and if you're new around here, please drop me a sub, help grow the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. If you could help me there, I'd really appreciate it. Right, so big bad Scarbrand here. This raging red beast monster. So one of the things to look at straight away, you're looking for a skill. It'll be named differently, but basically the skill, it might not always have raiding on it, it might just have sacking. But as it says there, income from sacking settlements plus 10%. If they are more of a sacking faction, they might have that. Now some factions that can occupy more, like your Warriors of Chaos, will probably have this as well. But they're not necessarily sackers. Scarbrand has to be. But the difference to tell between Scarbrand and like Warriors of Chaos is, if anyone's played Warriors of Chaos can generate a lot of money from their settlements. So from their Dark Fortresses, which is basically just the Dark Fortresses, their main building can bring in 1,000. And that's with none of the other buildings here that can increase it by like 50%. Their main money-making building, which in this case would be, I think, that one. Yes, that one, because it also gets plus 50%. The main money-making building for Warriors of Chaos also brings in 1,000. So you've got 2,000 already at max level. So at tier 5 you've got 1,000 from the settlement and 1,000 from one of the buildings, which you can then increase by, I think it's 100%. So it can bring in like 4,000 if you've got the correct buildings built. So you're looking at these two here. These both bring in 300. This brings in 60. Now it does increase income of all buildings by 50% in the local region, but it's not really enough. And bear in mind, Khorne's units are bloody expensive. They're really strong, but they're bloody expensive. Personally, as weird as this is going to sound, stay away from demons. Demons are shit. They really are. You want Marauders if you need cheap. If not, get Chaos Warriors, and then Chaos Warriors with dual weapons. When you can afford it later on, get some Chosen of Khorne, along with some Chosen of Khorne with dual weapons. And then for your other part of your army, either have Chaos Knights of Khorne, or take Minotaurs on both brackets. And then if you want to, you can maybe chuck in a Bloodthirster or two for flavour. That is the only demon I recommend, other than your Lords and Heroes. Your Lords and Heroes are recommended as well. Cultist you need because he's got replenished troops. He's integral to the army. One of these two has to be a Scout. They both got Assassinate, but he's also got Block Army, giving him a bit more flexibility. So what I will normally do is take an Exalted Hero in my army. He's also got Training. And then put this guy as my Scouts, because he's got Assassinate and Block Army. These two are the most important campaign abilities for a hero to have. Because then you can kill enemy heroes, and you can block armies. And that could save an army's life or save a settlement from being destroyed by giving you that one more turn to get there. So be mindful of what you're doing with your heroes. But the armies are quite simple. But because demons, when their leadership gets low, they disintegrate. You lose units too frequently. They're not worth ranking up, they're not worth really taking. The mortal units, if they get beaten, they flee. And very, very rarely do they get wiped out. So your mortal units are much better to take than your demons. The demons just aren't good enough. See, you need to buff demons. The sustain is garbage. Even for ones like Nurgle. And Nurgle you can stave it off to a degree because they've got a lot of healing spells. The other three don't. So, take mortal units even when you're playing the mono gods. They're just better. They really are. Now, something to point out is, obviously, although you're going to be going around sacking and then occupying, that's what you're going to be looking to do. Or in the case of Scarbrand, I'll just show you here. Pop him in there for flavour. Fuck this guy up. Get out of the way. Don't do anything special on this guy. Give me the replant. We don't care about that. We're just doing a demonstration. But this is basically what you want to be doing with these sorts of actions, if you want to succeed in any way, really. This guy's stuff is just too expensive, so you have to. Right. So, you do that. So what you would do is, you would sack, at the moment you're not sacking for a whole lot, 722, but also bear in mind the sack value goes up, the more buildings and the value of those buildings that are built inside the settlement. That's why cities always sack for more than towns, for the most part, unless the town's just been destroyed. So you've sacked it, you've got some money, but then in Scarbrand's case, you can either occupy, you don't occupy. Obviously you can't raise it the same turn. So you'd wait the next turn, and the next turn you would raise it for 1,000 skulls. So you also get 2 battles out of it, 'cause bear in mind you've got bloodletting here. Bloodletting for Scarbrand is how they get growth. So your growth is province-wide for every army. If you want to, you can make a blood host. You don't want too many blood hosts because you do pay upkeep for them. But you can have a blood host go off, and that's also got a bloodletting bar. So that will also provide you with more growth. That's how you're going to grow your settlements faster. So like a building like this, I just destroy that straight away. There's no point having it. It's garbage. You do not need it. But getting sidetracked anyway. So yeah, you'd sack it, and depending on the faction you're playing, so like if you're playing Greenskins, you would sack it and then occupy it. You're playing Scarbrand, you're sacking it and then raising it for skulls. It's the same, that's pretty much the only one you do it with is Scarbrand that way. So you'd sack it and then raise it for skulls, or raise it for a blood host and get yourself a blood host and send them off to go and attack stuff as well. And that's basically how you want to use Scarbrand. For something like Nurgle, for example, Nurgle you would always sack and occupy the same as Greenskins. So, that's another thing I meant to show you. So you've already shown the blue tree. So you've got a blue tree of where you've got things like income from sacking settlements. You've got its 10% there. I don't think there's anything else along here on him. Just making sure with him. There's not. But also, what you will have is, you will get it, example there. Most factions that are good at sacking will have a technology that will give them more from sacking. You won't generally find that playing good guy factions. So if you play like Dwarves, if you play Empire, if you play Bretonia, if you play High Elves, you won't find a technology that increases your sacking potential. Because they're not generally sackers. They'll attack a settlement and occupy it. Only reason they'd raise it would be to deny it the enemy. Or because it's like in a shit territory, like you'd raise something if it's red as a player. You wouldn't want to occupy red, it's terrible. But you'll have something like this that will increase your sacking. A lot of factions do. In some cases, there's some that have got it even better, which is surprising when you come to ones like Nurgle, who we're going to go and take a look at right now. So, Nurgle is strange with it, because you wouldn't think Nurgle, being both fat, slow, green guys, would be sackers. But they actually are, and they have a plague that actually helps you do it, probably better than any other faction in the game. Ridiculously to think. Oh, and also if you're playing Kogath Plaguefather, don't make him any ranged. Don't make him ranged with his artillery. He's not an artillery unit. You're a melee army. You're fighting. You're not sitting back having this guy throw shit at people. So there's no point in buffing Nurglings either. Again, the demons are shit, and Nurglings are shitter than most, even with these upgrades. Believe me, I know, I've tried. But when you've got things like this, ammunition 15%, don't take things like that. Just don't. Yes, this just increases missiles here if you want to take this, but you're not bothered about that. What you want to do is with Kogath, getting Pestilent Decay is a Mortis engine. It's a Mortis engine with the highest health in the game Mortis engine, when you've upgraded his health as well. So you stick him in combat and the damage will skyrocket. If you've watched my Morgor Shadowgave campaign from the Beastmen, see how many kills and how much damage Morgor does. I think in one battle he gets like 800 plus kills. That's because he's a Mortis engine. And in Morgor's case also, 9 impossible to kill missiles. Kogath unfortunately doesn't share that same toughness. He's got a massive amount of health, but he's still quite vulnerable. And all he's got is physical resistance to demons, which is generally shit. But again, down here, Despoiler, as it shows up. So there's his for raiding as well as sacking. But the one you want to look at is, if you look at their buildings, just the same as Khorne ones, their buildings don't earn much. Generates 150. Now that's only a town. That generates 800. That generates quite a bit. Now, you've got the cycle tree with Nurgle. So at the very top end, like this will give you 700, until it goes back down to 1, which then it gives you 50. So your money's going to have drastic drops. So there's no way to really gauge your income to like build an army. So because of that, it makes them a sacking faction. These all give you 300 at the top end, but at the bottom end they give you 50. And again, they're cycling round. You haven't got any garrison buildings. If you've got like a unique building like this, you'd build that. And then you'll build 2 of these in a town, except that one. That one you always build in a city. Because of this green thing here, it requires it to be tier 4. And you can't get tier 4 towns. They only go up to tier 3. So you want this one in every city. And then depending on what you may want here, like Casual Punishment and Nurgle Corruption, that one gives you control, and that one gives you growth. Growth is good obviously for getting the settlement growing up. You might not need it after that, but it's entirely up to you. You can keep it if you want to. It doesn't make much difference because you're going to be getting the same amount of money from them. You just won't need the growth anymore, unless something gets destroyed and you've got to rebuild it. The control one's always a good idea, I suppose, personally. Again, avoid the demon units, pure demon ones. You want this one because it's got access to your Chaos Warriors. So you've got Chaos Warriors and Chaos Warrior Great Weapons. They have the Great Weapon ones, which are really, really strong, the best ones to have, because they will carve through armoured units. You don't want this building. You never used to want this building, but now they've put the mortal units in here. You've got your Chaos Knights of Nurgle. You don't want the one with Lancers though. And then you've got Chosen of Nurgle and Chosen of Nurgle Great Weapons. So you want this building. This one is also one you can build, maybe also because of the money, because you get more money from it. But the Beasts of Nurgle actually aren't bad. They're one of the more durable ones. Because although they've got the physical resistance as normal, they've got a reduction in melee attack for enemies within 15 meters. They get more melee defense in combat, and they've also got regeneration, making them quite tanky boys, and they do a lot of damage. So, Beasts of Nurgle aren't bad either. I would probably say Beasts of Nurgle in their own way are better than probably the Great and Clean ones. Because the Great and Clean ones, apart from the bound spells, are a much bigger target and easier to hit. So they do get dead quite frequently. But if you look at this number anyway, there's a number right below enemy minor settlements. It says sack value. So it tells you what they sack for. So you can see what they will sack on. And that again is based on the tier of the settlement. The higher tier and also the more buildings in there, the more value it's worth. But then if you've got skills that give you more from the sacking, or if you can get... There aren't any on this one to show you. They're on... God. What am I clicking on here? They're on my other campaign. You can get ancillaries. So you can get some of these. They may also increase your sack value. So you can also put some of those onto your lords, and then you get more money from sacking yet again. As for technology on this one, I think he's got one. I haven't played Nurgle in a while, so... I haven't played him since Realm of Chaos, and that was a while ago. If he's actually got a sacking one on top of his plague, it'll actually be quite broken. It's possible he has, but I don't know. Because the amount of money you can make is going to be absolutely insane. I don't think they actually have one on the tech tree. They've got one on the Lord Blue tree, but not on the tech tree because they have something better. They have this one down here. So the Black Plague, which you need the Plague Buboes, you need Gut Rot, and you need Weeping Eyes. And then that will give you Plague Effect on Nurgle armies, income from sacking and looting settlements plus 100%. So, that is a lot. That is a real lot. And I will show you when I go into my endgame campaign how much I can sack for with a faction that has some buffs towards sacking, but not as good as that. So they're actually really, really good for sacking. And then go and hit these. Sack also gets you some infections. Boom. Ooh, lovely. But in his case, you're not going to be raising it like Scarbrand. So you can hit it again. Occupy. Sack, occupy. Now, what you do need to be careful of with Nurgle, though, is bear in mind that his buildings are really, really expensive. Really, really expensive. So, like, some of his top ones, 10,000, 10,000. Because you don't pay for these ones, you just pay for the base one and then it goes round. Even these are all 2,000 each. Now bear in mind, these in most factions will be a couple of hundred for the tier 1, and then you'll just build it up as you go. So these are expensive buildings. They are not cheap. So you don't want to be building up every single settlement. Bear in mind you are a sacking faction. So you're going to be... You do need a city somewhere. Dreadrock might end up being your first city. You want to get Dreadrock to tier 5. So you have to kind of like draw a line in the sand somewhere and defend it for a bit. Get it to tier 5, recruit the units that you want into your army. Obviously make sure you've got the money so you don't bankrupt yourself, you know, don't go complete forehead. But then go on a sacking spree. If you can find a province somewhere where you can then defend it, like let's say you clear out all the air around here from Force of Vorag, and you want to make this into a settlement as well. Get it up to tier 5, and use that as a recruiting station as well, because you're going to want some, and you have to have at least one settlement so you don't start taking attrition across all your armies. So you do need something somewhere anchored down, but you don't need to occupy and build up every single thing, because you're benefiting from sacking and occupying and moving on. Obviously making sure that your army, you know, gets a bit topped out. So you might end up fighting a lot of battles as opposed to auto-resolving. Same with Scarbrand. But you're going to be sacking and moving on a lot. So you're not going to be painting the map so much as painting just parts of it here and there where you need. And then also an important thing, this is for both Scarbrand and Kugath to take into account. Actually can't show it on this, I don't think. Because I don't have a city. Or it might be different for him maybe. This is an important distinction to make. This can be applied to Tzeentch and Slaanesh as well. So this will help you with all the monogod factions. Because some people have asked me why they can't make money with Khorne, which is why I chose Scarbrand to begin with. But then also, why have they got 2 different building chains for their cities? Allow me to explain. So, go on to here. So you've got the demonic dimensional cascade as the top one, and the chaos dreadhold. They do give some little benefits, like that gives you some more Khorne corruption, that gives you recruitment cost and local recruitment capacity. But the main thing is to look at is the construction cost minus 25% for military recruitment buildings, and also recruitment cost minus 25%. And this one, construction cost minus 50% for infrastructure buildings. That's these ones, the ones that make you money. Well, very little of it though, because his money is fucking garbage. Everything almost makes money apart from his walls, I think, and that thing, but never build that. They don't make you enough money to support an army. That's why you're a sacking faction. You're looking to get a massive treasury, and you're going to be operating in the red. It's the same with Nurgle. So this number here that's green at the top, your predicted income, that is going to be in the red for the bulk of your campaign, playing as Scarbrand, playing as Nurgle, maybe playing as ogres, but ogres have a way to try and combat it a bit. They can kind of like essentially build their own dark fortress with their encampments, but you will operate in the red with these factions definitely. Beastmen, you're not going to worry about it because Beastmen have no upkeep cost on their units, as they're a horde army in that way. But with these anyway, if you are looking to build a recruiting station, which your first city, which is this Death Gorge, always should be, you want to recruit from where you've got these, because these buildings will all be 25% cheaper when you've got it maxed out, or they'll be cheaper to begin with, like what, 10%? It knocks some of the cost off. So every time you upgrade this, these buildings get cheaper. These ones always stay the same, and these ones will get cheaper with the other building. But it also makes your unit recruitment cheaper. So if you're going to recruit an army, make sure you recruit it from a province that has this building chain. Obviously, if you grab another province right nearby, you don't want 2 of these. So then you could build this one and build these, although they're not very expensive, but you could build these cheaper. And then you're looking more towards just putting money stuff in there than anything else. But apart from holding down like a recruiting area every now and then, so like let's say you've got Death Gorge, the next recruiting area you might want might be maybe Ekrund, or maybe Black Crag up here. You know, it's further away, so you can always go back and recruit some troops if you lose some, or you can recruit another army from there. You don't want them everywhere, but you do want them every now and then. And basically you're just going round sacking then raising. Because also with Scarbrand, unique to him, when you do raise it, as it says in green just above where it says the add walls and settlements above it, 5% chance to automatically colonise ruined regions in province at turn start. So you occupy the cities, but you raise all the towns. And then it will basically colonise the towns for free. And then you can just upgrade the buildings as you go if you want to. But you don't need to make every province into a recruiting station. Because you're not going to have money for it for one, because you're going to be in the red. You're going to be on the move a lot. And that's also how he works by getting the bloodletting up. It makes your units cheaper, casual punishment goes up, your Khorne corruption. Now your global recruitment duration minus 2 turns is pretty good. Also your growth action makes your stuff grow faster. But what you've got to bear in mind with old Scarbrand as well is his recruitment cost minus 35% when in enemy or raised territory. That's only for his army, not for secondary lords. So secondary lords want to recruit their troops from a recruiting station. So if they ever get into a battle and they lose some units, they need to head back to one and recruit from there, ideally. Unless you can afford to sink into the global recruitment. So if we go over here, well, actually I'll show you. So there. So like, example, take note of here, the Bloodthirsters are 1,440. I go over here. I need to go into thing it. They were cheap yesterday, that was kind of weird. Is it bugged out? Well, that's kind of weird. Well, other day when I was doing it anyway, basically, I could recruit my units cheaper by globally recruiting them instead of recruiting them normally from a settlement. Because Scarbrand has the 35% reduction. So by them being reduced by 35%, it was cheaper to globally recruit them than it was to actually go into my own territory and recruit them. I don't know why that is different today. I don't know. Oh, in fact, hang about. That's very weird. Kind of strange. Okay. But I somehow managed to get them cheaper. I don't know what I did. I must have done something weird. But I got them cheaper by global recruiting. So for me it was cost effective to basically just keep his army on the move. He's a movement machine. Where your other armies will have to go back and recruit from a settlement. You don't want to be global recruiting all the time because it can be expensive. Unless you've got an obscene treasury. If you've got like 200,000-300,000 and I don't know, let's say your minus is 8k, something like that, then yeah, you can probably afford to global recruit and it not be an issue. As long as it's time efficient. So if we now go on to Mr. Goldtooth. Mr. Goldie Goldtooth. The fat man himself. King of the fatties. So this is a Greasus one, I've already started up. Now normally, you won't be bothered too much about the small ogre encampment buildings they always get. This one's different because it's Greasus' main place, and it can get 1,200 from these two buildings alone. You normally, as if we're going to this one here, your normal income building is 150. It's garbage. I don't think that even supports a unit of ogres. Just barely. It'd support one and you'd be left with 25 gold spare for a basic ogre. So they don't support crap. So these normal settlements, you just need them to basically stop you taking like attrition, like faction wide attrition. That's all you really need them for. The Great Hall of Greece is worth keeping because it does bring in a lot of money, but most of it is your camps. Your camps are really, really important. So the upkeep of units in them is reduced by 60%. It can also be reduced by another 30%, which you should get. So that's 90% reduced upkeep. So you can choose the garrison that goes in your encampment. So basically you get a full fucking army for almost nothing. The only thing is, you can't do much about the camp leader. It's basically level 1 tyrant. So he'll eventually be the weakest unit in the army, but you can put all the badass units into it you want. But the big building, the money building in here, gives you 1,000 income. The encampment itself doesn't give you any income, but it reduces the upkeep of the units in there by 60%, but it increases the income of all non-camp buildings by 12% faction-wide. So bear in mind that's non-camp. So that won't apply to this one, it applies to all the buildings outside. So the more camps that you've got, the more value you will get from these. But bear in mind when you've got the Great Hall of Greasus, and you've got 1,200 from these 2 buildings, that's then getting 12% on top of that. Per camp. That stacks per camp. So you've got 2 camps, 24. You've got 3 camps, 36. So on and so forth. It's going to stack up, and then you will get some money from these, but your encampments still give you the bulk of your money. But Ogres are definitely, again, a sacking and occupying faction. They've got one called Ravager. This one just gives you income from sacking, not raiding. But it's 15% income rather than 10. So you're getting a bit more bang for your buck. In terms of the research tree, you've got gold standard, income, sacking, looting, settlements, plus 25%. Most of them will have a research that will give you at least that somewhere. Nurgle doesn't, but Nurgle has it from his plague, which is even better. So you've got an idea on who's going to be your sackers and who's not. So what we'll do is we'll load up a non-sacker so you can see the difference. My boy Altharian, the Batman of Warhammer. So with Altharian, I'm going to here for a start. So if we look through all these, you'll notice none of them give increase to sacking. So he doesn't have anything there to increase sacking. Sure, he can sack. Does he need to? No. If you also go on the tech trees and you look through the techs, you'll notice none of these increase the sacking either. They increase your money, but not via sacking. Because you're not a sack and occupy faction. You just occupy. It's just better for you. None of these do it, and they just all buff your troops. So most factions will have a little switch like that, where the blue tree will have a sacking option if you can sack, so you can get some more money, and they might also have a technology or more. So what we'll do is now, we'll look at the end game. So the end game, we're going to go into my current campaign, but I'm going to go in the autosave because the other ones are all in battles, because I'm being attacked left, right and centre by fucking forces of good, because it's a 100 turn head start campaign, which makes it bloody hard. Right, so this is my end game scenario. Sort of think my end game scenario. My end game with Skarsnik. I'm trying to win my campaign, but it's bloody hard because Belagar, who I've got to wipe out, is strong as fuck. So I've got to wipe him out, and he's strength rank 4 with 16 settlements. So it's proving problematic. And because I've got to wipe out all his settlements and his armies, it's a bit of a bloody nightmare. But what I can show you is, if I put my cursor over Black Crag, look at how much I can sack it for. 35,926. 1,439 which got sacked. 12,233. 2,000. 31,505. 9,115. 8,000. That one actually been sacked a few times. 24,775. So you can make obscene money, which is why I've got 324,000 and minus 3,000 a turn. But I'm making, I've got over almost 330,000 in the treasury. I'm not going to run out of money for some time to come. And because I've got that many armies running round, sacking things, this keeps going up. I can make more in one turn than I will lose with the 3,000. So I can make a lot from it from doing it. And again, with these, just like Kogath, I will sack and then occupy. Now there are exceptions as well to sack and occupy, is, unless you really, really need the money, let's say I came across Zarnagarund. That sacks for 77,492. That's a lot. Imagine if Nurgle sacked that with his plague. Imagine how much that'd be worth. But if you came across, say, a tier 5 and it's in a good place, you might want to just occupy it rather than sack it. Because you can occupy it and you might get it at the tier it's at. So you might get a tier 5 city at tier 5 rather than knocking it down to tier 4. Where if you sack it, you're going to lose one tier, and if you occupy it, you might lose another. You're not guaranteed to, but you might. But you're going to lose at least one from the sacking. So then it can go from a tier 5 to a tier 3. So in some cases it might be worth occupying a big city. You can always sack the towns, unless they're worth fuck all. But sacking is the way you go with ones like these. And in terms of like their research, you've got normal's loot card of here, income from sacking settlements plus 20%. So you get 20% there. I can't remember if there's another one on this. Honestly, I've forgotten. I don't look at the early game stuff that much. I just know what I want to recruit, what I want to research. And it's just 20% on that one, and then they've got the blue tree, which is this one. So they get another 15% from there, the same as Greasus. So they get 35% more from sacking from those two things alone. So one from a research that affects all your armies, and one if you take Ravager. Obviously Greasus gets a bit more, he gets 25% from his research. We only get 20% as the Greenskins. But what the Greenskins can also get, that's quite good, which you should build in every town, maybe some cities, but every town, is this one. So post-battle loot, you get plus 3% faction-wide, raiding plus 2% all armies, but income from sacking and looting settlements plus 2% all characters. So all your lords that lead your armies, they get 2% for each one of these buildings. So if I've got 3 in this settlement, that's 6% more on top of that 35. So that's 41% straight away there. I've got more here. And they've got a building that can enable it to stack up to ridiculous levels. So that is how you can do it as well. But bear in mind that always, because the garrisons again aren't very good on these, just like they aren't on the ogre towns. The campments are good, because you can choose the garrison, you can build it yourself. But on these, the garrisons aren't good. Greenskins don't have good garrisons. Neither does Kogath. Scarbrands can be a bit better, but they're still not amazing, and they're not designed for, like, the long haul sort of thing, I suppose. But you could probably hold out better with Scarbrand, something like that. It's always better to preserve your armies than preserve a town or a city. The only thing you can't have is no towns or cities, because then you're taking global attrition across all your armies. So you need to have something somewhere occupied. But obviously you also need something somewhere to recruit your troops. Just like with Scarbrand, just like with Kogath, just like with Greasus. You need to be able to have something to recruit you guys from. Now you don't use the towns with ogres to recruit from, apart from the very early game. You use them to make money. You recruit from your ogre encampments. They're basically your cities. You recruit from them. That's how you get your best troops. And that's why you can put the best garrisons on them. That is where you want to be doing your recruitment with them. With these, obviously, you need a city. You do need to hold onto some cities so you can recruit your better units. But if, let's say 4 or 5 armies come out the mist here at me, I've already beat these armies off, just FYI, they've already been destroyed. If I need to, I'd rather save the army and the Lord and get him the fuck out of there. It's 3 levels off being immortal. So, I don't want him to die. So I can get him out of there, and they can take Karak. If need be, I can always gallop a few armies and take it back. It's not the end of the world. But you need to try and preserve your armies who can then go around. Think of all of your armies as money generators. They've got to go around, they attack an army, you get post-battle loot. If they attack a town or a city, you sack it, you get sack money. And then you can occupy it straight away if you've got the movement to do so. If you haven't, you get it the turn after. But you're looking to stay rather fluid. There are some like special cases, like in his case, I need Karak 8 peaks. It's part of his victory condition, and I need it anyway. It's just got some big advantages for my greenskins on it. Load recruit rank +3 faction wide, 20 more leadership for goblins, recruit rank +4 for goblins. It's got advantages. I was going to recruit orcs, but I thought I'll keep, because it's Skarsnik, I'll keep it goblin, and I'm just going to whack trolls in there with some rogue idols to like bolster the front line aspect. Because Skulkers, while they are good and you can do entire campaigns with them, I have done when I played Grom, but Grom can make Skulkers really fucking strong through his cooking pot. Skarsnik hasn't got that. He can make them really cheap but not really strong. So I need something else in there for a bit of oomph. But I can just stay on the move. Most of the armies around here don't scare me. These Skulkers will take them apart. And look at my Skulkers leadership. The leadership's 81. It's no longer poor leadership. So I hope this has answered some questions about whether your faction is a sacker or an occupier. There's little things you can look at within factions to tell what they might be better at doing. And then there are some that can do a mixed match of both, like your Dark Elves, your Warriors of Chaos, but you do still need some settlements to recruit your best troops from. You can also recruit your best troops from like Black Orcs or Dark Elves, but I don't recommend playing them at the moment because the slave mechanic is garbage. But like your Warriors of Chaos, you need your Dark Fortresses. That's where you do the bulk of your recruiting. Just like you do need a city for Skarbrand and for Kugath. Think of that as their Dark Fortress. They do need somewhere to recruit their guys from. But that is the only thing you really need it for. You're not looking to make money from it. You're just looking to recruit the troops you need from it. You will be in a red the bulk of the time, so you'll be like this. You're going to be in a minus. But if you've got this much in the treasury, you don't care. You really don't care. Because at that point then, you've got a badass army, well, probably more than one badass army, but you've got quite a few badass armies running around wrecking things. And they'll be sacking for more each turn than you'll be losing. At least that's the aim. If you might get like a dry turn or two where there's not enough settlements or armies in the area, it's fine, but that's why you need to make sure you've got enough in your treasury to absorb it. So you're not running out of money. Otherwise, again, you will take global attrition. So you don't want to be without all settlements, you don't want to be without an empty treasury. So you need to keep it an even keel. So your sacking factions, I'd probably say, are a bit harder to play for a newer player. So you could try them, because like I recommend Beastmen as a recommended faction from me, but Beastmen don't have an upkeep cost. So you're never going to go into the red with Beastmen. They don't have upkeep on any of their units. So they'll kind of like baby you into the whole sacking thing. And even the Beastmen have got to keep a herdstone somewhere sometimes. It's nice to like hold it down. And especially if it performs your ritual ruination. You need to defend it until you can do that. Otherwise you won't get your marks of ruination. So it will teach you a little bit about the sacking and moving along thing. But obviously factions like these, like Skarbrand, like Kugath, they do need some settlements around. They can't just operate with a hidden encampment like Beastmen and take no attrition. These need to have a base somewhere to both keep them from taking attrition and to recruit from. So you do need something. But if you've got several cities somewhere, and like I've got this cascade of armies coming down here, there's one army there, there's 3 more in the mist here, there's these 2 here, there's that one there, all coming this way. I can't stop all those bloody armies, so I'm just piecing out. I'd like to try and keep Grand Peaks. It has got a good unique building that gives, again, goblins more leadership. But I need to try and focus on my win conditions. Now that doesn't mean actually killing this little prat because he belongs to Belagar. But you can stay on the move. I could underway from here down there, sack that. What's that worth? Does it tell us with this one? No, not with that one. I need a plain army. Will you tell us? That's worth 9,000. It's not worth that much, to be fair. That's worth more. That's a town. 13,250 on the town. 11,000 there. So, you know, boom, boom, sack these. I'm only losing 3,000 a turn. So that's the equivalent of like over 4 turns worths of red. So you can have some fun with it. You've just got to be a bit more aggressive with sacking based factions. Obviously the reason this is so hard is because I've done a 100 turn head start, which will make it very hard for sacking factions. Occupying factions won't care. You're literally just defending what you've got, using your strong garrisons, let the enemy come at you, they'll die at your walls. You know, it's like a matter of let them come. But I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you think there's anything I've missed, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you're new around here, please drop a sub, help grow the channel, and I'll catch you next video. Take care everyone, and have a great day.